So you're a finance minister. You didn't have COVID. You didn't have Russia, Ukraine. Yet your growth figures were not good.
Crude oil prices fell.
What?
Crude oil prices fell.
Let me finish with the question
okay.
that you can answer.
Yes.
Your growth rates were not good. Your inflation rates were not good. Your the stability of your currency was not that good. We ended your tenure with almost 4 cedis to $1. You couldn't pay teacher and training allowances. There were backlog of teachers and nurses and others who had to be employed. You were not giving the warrants for the employment. We saw a lot of agitation and picketing and all that. There was a group called Unemployed Graduates Association and all that. You were also supervising Minister for Power for almost a year. We had excruciating doomsaw. I mean, when people talk about Seth Terkper, the finance minister, it looks like a lot of the things that come to mind are not positive.
Every minister for finance faces challenges. Every minister for finance faces challenges. And what I can say is that, if you compared 3 oil fields to 1, and the situation we are in now, I think relatively speaking, we can be said to have done better because, 1, we also face challenges. Remember, right from Dr. Dufour's time, the biggest challenge that, he faced, was single spine, which continued until we met Labour in 2013. And we had to be borrowing, right? Then there was a breach of, you said doomsaw. Let's go to the history of doomsaw. Mm-hmm. It was a breach of the pipeline, which disrupted the supply of gas from Nigeria, the West African gas pipeline. That's the main cause of doomsaw. For which we were told it will be repaired. It will be repaired. Until His Excellency, got fed up and he said, fine, let's find our own solution. So Cap Power, Ameri and others came in. And they came in ahead of the repair. So by the time the repair came, power was being stabilized. And, even considered that we resolved them so. Mm. So I think we should be defending some of these things, relatively speaking, right? And go to the causes of some of these things. After single spine was not a merit policy. Single spine was just an experiment, not tested, and then civil servants were told that it to be implemented. Did the new president have to renege on it? Right? It was suspended for a year, and even after the suspension for a year, huge borrowing and huge management of resources had to go in. And we didn't get, and some of the bonds that we started paying down, the well-bound refinancing money, went to stretch out some of these things, as I said. But the worst was the form, we couldn't reach the 120,000 barrels. It was just around 70,000 barrels, the average of 110 to 120. To crude oil prices, we prepared a 2016 budget with $99 per barrel. I was reading the budget in 2015. First reading it, the crude oil prices crashed to $40 per barrel and came down to about 30. And so by March 2016, we were back in Parliament trimming the budget. Because there was no way. Because our debt was going up, there was no way we could have resolved it with borrowing. Right? And then we had a fund program. And despite all that, we managed. We have the best record in the last 10 years when it comes to deficit, debt, and all those things.
What do you mean by that?
Of course, we ended our deficit in 2016. It was 6.1. Forget about 8.3 or whatever. The president corrected it. They were just using, the arrears we were compiling to give the impression that we had, the contract we were here. Our debt on a new basis is 57%. Right? Today we're 100%.
You didn't have COVID.
And then we did zero financing.
You didn't have COVID. You didn't have Russia, Ukraine.
You see, I told you that we had, the after effects of all this is the domestic wars. If you underestimate, you see, the issue is this. If you underestimate the real cause of doomsaw, and you belittle it, that
What
it
was
is
the real
not.
cause?
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That part of the problems we face, if you underestimate a crisis like crude oil prices crashing, right? It crashed. It affects, if you underestimate, the breach of the pipeline, despite even a trouble, later trouble, was in, it could have been worse. These are crises. Yes, they are not as big as COVID. But if you underestimate my little crisis, you won't be prepared for the big one. And that's how come when the big one struck, right, you didn't have 750 million. That's by 3 oil fields. And that's why when the big one struck, you have no excuse. After getting about 6 billion, including the stabilization fund, to resolve, doom so, and you couldn't resolve it, I could enumerate them for you. Some were loans. COVID loan 1 billion. SDI 1 billion.
You're talking about monies we got as a result of COVID.
To resolve COVID.
Okay.
The COVID crisis.
Okay.
The reason we got them was to help us resolve the COVID crisis.
Okay.
And I'm saying that no matter how, what's the size of Ghana's economy? And so no matter how big that crisis, 6 billion, no government.
We got $6 billion.
Yes.
Okay.
Equivalent.
Okay.
Because some were in cities.
Okay.
I say 1 billion, IMF, 1 billion, another billion, SDR, IMF, World Bank. We all know by now they gave about 750 to 900 or so. Other African Development Bank, that's another 1 billion. Bank of Ghana, 1.7 billion US dollars. Stabilization Fund, 300 billion US dollars. I mean, and then even our own jobs at the airport, where the money goes, their own jobs, if you had to travel. We pay, right? And I've not yet mentioned what other development partners gave us. So conservatively, so what excuse do you have? Assuming that I give even the benefit of the doubt. That yes, COVID was severe, which I said it was, the severeness. 6 billion. I mean, it's not small. We're talking dollars. We're not talking cities, equivalent. Right? So there's no reason. And then remember, and it's the fund program, and the IMF managing director repeated it. It's here. Most recently, severe external shocks compounded pre-existing fiscal and debt vulnerabilities. This is IMF speaking. So long before, the reason we couldn't resolve with all these monies is that they were pre-existing. In fact, if you look at the Article 4, IMF, 2019, it revised the deficit figures. The 4.7 or 4.9 was revised to 7%. The 5.3, I believe, was revised to 7.2%, which is the calculation we were making. The IMF, and these are the pre-existing conditions. So the deficit, the debt, you remember the bailout costs being put in footnotes and all those things. They were all part of the issue. So the fact that time has lapsed does not make these things. And to date, the fund is talking about pre-existing conditions. It has repeated it several times. It repeated it in the staff report. It repeated it, by the IMF the executive board. So they are now letting us know that this blaming COVID and Ukraine and whatever, we had problems already. That's what the pre-existing means. And the World Bank Managing Director mentioned it when she was here. Yeah.
Okay.